Coaching brings you three things. Number one, a proven system. Number two, new ideas. And then number three, accountability. You get access to a proven system that you can just plug into your business without spending months or years trying to figure out on your own. Hey guys, Todd Dawalt here from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com. Welcome to the Construction Leading Edge podcast. Today's episode is a conversation between Monish Khadye, a Construction Leading Edge coach here, and one of our clients, Daniel Hickey, who along with his wife, Candace, own Hickey Construction. And here are a few things they discuss. The importance of a phase in construction that's often overlooked and is the root cause of a lot of the problems that show up on construction sites, which is the pre-construction process. Spoiler alerts. And I'll just say this, that most good construction companies, it's not how good they are at construction that makes them good. It's how good they are at pre-construction. So good construction companies are actually really good pre-construction companies. And I'll talk about that. Daniel talks about designing a pre-construction process and how getting paid for that process really made it possible, and his surprising success rate going from free estimates to getting paid for estimates, how he's sort of been kicked out of his business in a good way and what that has done for him, some of the positive ripple effects that his team and his customers have seen from having a rigorous handoff process, some of the changes that Daniel has made in his business so it is now a source of freedom for him and his family. How, speaking of family, Daniel talks about how he and his wife Candace have clarified each of their lanes and how that's going. And then he discusses some of the results that he and his wife Candace have experienced since taking their business through the Systematize Your Construction Business Program, which is what they refer to as SYCB. So if you want to take the first step toward having these kind of results you're about to hear from, and you can hear from other clients on other podcast episodes, you can go to ConstructionLeadingEdge.com/apply and schedule a call with my team, and we'll take the first step toward helping you get these kind of results. Now, let's get to that conversation with Monish Khadye from our team and Daniel Hickey. Enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Construction Leading Edge. This is Monish Khadye, and today our guest is Daniel Hickey. Daniel, can you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, g'day Monish, thanks for having me. My name's Daniel. I'm originally from New Zealand, and I left about 15 years ago now, but I left New Zealand at 21 to travel the world and moved to England, spent about 3 years over in the UK, living and working in the hospitality industry before getting sick of that and going back into the construction industry, which is where I did my apprenticeship back in New Zealand. I got sort of stuck, not being allowed to stay there any longer. So the next destination was meant to be the US, but it was far too difficult for me to get in there, and Canada had their doors wide open. So now I reside in Vancouver, Canada, or just outside of Vancouver, Canada. And I've got a construction business that we are running out of Langley, with about 10 of us total in the team at the moment, specializing in residential renovations and construction.
Nice. And it's you and your wife?
Yeah, so I've got myself and my wife. We've got a couple of young kids, Jackson and Anna, so they keep the handful as well as trying to run through the whole business at the same time. Yeah. It keeps you on your toes.
I bet they do. And so what type of renovations do you guys specialize in?
So residential, smaller kitchen, bathroom additions, all these sort of things, exterior facelifts and updates, but mainly we don't do any new construction. It's sort of different licensing here that you sort of run through and go over. We probably look towards to getting to that, but in the market here, with the house values, there's a lot of renovations that have to happen, whether it's, small kitchen renovations, or there's a lot of basement suite updates that have to happen, just to be able to bring in more people to live, because there's a bit of a housing shortage here, as it seems there is everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, there seems to be. There's a housing shortage, there's a labor shortage. I don't know how
Yeah,
that
sure.
goes hand in hand. Like, how can you have too many people and not enough people?
Yeah, it makes
Um,
no sense. I agree.
and if you don't mind me asking, what sort of revenue will you guys be doing this year? What have you been doing?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of growth over the last sort of 3 years. So about 3 years ago, we were just over the $500,000. Then COVID struck, and we sort of pivoted the business a fair bit. And when COVID hit, we actually near on tripled our size. So we went from 550,000, we grew up to 1.2, and then we went to 1.7 in the last, 1.7, almost 1.8 in the last fiscal year for us. And then this year, we're sort of looking to stay around that track and grow to hit the 2 million or just over.
Okay, nice. And yeah, that's pretty phenomenal. I'm sure it came with growing pains as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of growing pains that are still slowly appearing, but we grew without knowing a lot, so
Yeah.
it's taken a lot to try to create those systems to implement it, and it's going to keep growing, and that's what we're excited about.
Ah, that's cool. And so, what would you say is one specific part of your business that's working well for you? What's helped you achieve this growth and this level of success? Something that you've cracked the code on, in essence.
Yeah, so that's quite a hard question because you never really know you've cracked the code until you've done it as such. But we did the SYBC course with you guys, which was for us has been phenomenal. Which we started with no knowledge on what we were doing and just sort of winging it and trying to figure it out as we go. Because I grew up swinging a hammer and in the farming community, you don't learn that much about money and business through school. Well, I didn't. I spent more time probably sitting at the doorstep than actually learning for what you're meant to. So you don't sort of know it. So we just sort of started and it just started growing and we grew and we grew and there'd be some big losses that you don't know of as you're going through the learning and the growing stages. But after we did the SYBC course, it really opened our eyes to what we were lacking in so many different areas. But creating our CEO schedule for me basically aligned a lot of things for what I was doing wrong, and then sort of being able to delegate tasks, which you yourself were a key part in making me delegate things because I'm not good at other areas. So I think that was a huge part, is just knowing and delegating off all the tasks so it wasn't just stuck on me, has been a huge help to keeping that growth going, because I can only wear so many hats and I was trying to wear
Yeah.
every hat where now it's stretched. So that's definitely a large part, I think, for us that's been massively beneficial, is being able to delegate tasks amongst our team and have the team excited for what they've got to do and holding them accountable.
Okay. So, tell me a bit more about that. What did it look like before you weren't delegating? What was the problem or the impact that was having on the rest of your team and potentially your clients as well, that you not being able to get out of those day-to-day tasks?
Yeah, so it was all just me. It was, that's fine. I can be on the tools and managing the sites and running all those sites. But the hard thing there was every decision had to come to me, had to go through me. I had to know everything, and the stress levels just go, off the scale, because you don't have the trust, or you feel you can't trust somebody else. It's my company, it's my baby, and to create the level of relaxing and giving the trust to your other team, you've just got to do that. So by letting them come in and help take that away and trusting they can do it, it's the main part that's basically helped us grow, because you can focus all your time in a lot of different and other areas.
Yep. Yep. And actually being able to rely on your team and set them up properly to be able to do their jobs as well.
Yeah, and now it's we've got a good software with Builder Trend, and that helps keep them on schedule. So having after I've done my sales, you sort of go, it passes off to my project manager, and he can set up everything in Builder Trend so the team know what they have to do without having to come to me to ask it. They now go back to him, and we've
Yep.
just got a straightforward line and sort of we've implemented the process
Yep.
and still working on it. It changes every time. We have a lot of changes. You think you're doing it right and someone makes a really good idea, so that changes. But it's not all coming to me. So now we sort of, the funnel is almost a reverse funnel, because it comes to me at the very last when it's almost a problem. And then that's where I have to. And by now doing it this way, the clients benefit from it, because one, they've got multiple people that have got the eyes on the job. They know what they're doing. They've got their one project manager that's dealing with everything. And then myself, if I need to pop in or there's an issue, but the correspondence that we have with them is definitely a massive bonus for them. And we can really give them the quality and the communication that they deserve.
So what did it look like before? What did it look like from the client's perspective then?
Oh, probably a bit of a shambles. You're trying to keep it together as much as you can. We had another software program that we were utilizing and using, so it definitely still probably looked half decent to the client's perspective. But that for me, that's a main thing, is keep the clients at the end of the day are our biggest point. And if I can keep the clients happy, it's the stuff that the clients don't see that was the shambles. The clients think everything is perfect, and maybe they might think that the company and what we're doing is such a bigger, more fine-tuned sort of machine, where it definitely isn't, but you're making it work as much as you can. So that's the creating all of our processes and systems, and letting the team give input to where they're struggling. It just helps disperse the issues amongst everybody rather than just on myself, so you don't have the big seesaws of ups and downs.
And this is something that the not delegating and stuff like that, it's obviously something that came as your business grew, correct? Because I'm assuming at the start it was just you, so there was no one to delegate to, and then that's changed over the 3 years.
Yeah, that's definitely changed. So it started off, it was just myself, and then it grew to 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. Then I think got up to 5, and then the kids come along, and then Candice tries to be a mum as well as moving into helping in the business at part-time, full-time, which, that was probably our first big shift, where Candice could take so much off my plate, but then not being able to do it full-time and still being a mum was hard. And then now the kids are growing up a bit, that she's now fully come in, and then the big shifts have started happening, and that's really been in the last couple of years. Like our daughter's only 4, so she's still young, but she's now at a daycare. So it's allowed Candice to really jump into the business, and she loves the processes and documents, and being able to have her checklist of what has to happen and who wears what hat. So that's been massive. And as that's done, it's just grown out to every single person having certain roles, or not everyone, but the main core part of the company knows sort of what their roles are going to be, what they have to do, and who to report to.
So tell us, Daniel, what's your role compared to a few months ago? Candice's lane. What's your lane?
So that's been quite good now. We actually had a lunch today, Candice and I, to discuss the lanes, and I've been asked to keep out of every lane except for the sales and estimating. She said it's kind of better when you're not involved, to be honest. As much as she wants, I need to. It's weird for me to be told that. I said, but this is my baby. Like, I've been doing it for 10 years and 9 years, and it's hard when you get told, we have better ideas when you're not sort of poking and prodding and trying to make it your way. So now mine is networking and the sales aspect, and obviously that's a huge part of it. But by having that, it's sort of pushed over to my project manager / operations. So he takes care of all of the scheduling, and then Candice is taking care of all the pre-construction and upfront dealings with the clients to figure out what we need. So that's been a huge part too, is the pre-construction that we never used, that we've now created the job for, has been massive. Like, yes, it's still fairly new to us, but it's been a huge just eye-opener. Back to your question earlier, that's probably one of the biggest things that we've noticed a difference on, is the pre-con.
And tell me more about that, because you guys have always done design and build, right? So you always had a process in place for pre-construction. So what's...
sort of not really. It was sort of quite winged, to be honest.
Right.
The process was me. You'd ring me or go onto my website. You'd get me when you called, or you'd get an email from myself, and I'd say, well, when are we going to make this work? When can I come by? What's your schedule? That started changing about a year ago. We sort of started making it so I'd give them their dates. I'd only look at jobs, because I was spending so much time driving around the lower mainland and nothing's close here. So that was it. And then it was all done with me. I'd go and look at the client, chat to the client, create the quote. We're now having the pre-construction. We charge for an estimate. I never used to charge, so that's been good. We don't charge a large fee, but it almost covers our estimating costs and our costs. So, if we're doing a bathroom and there's 8 to 10 hours, we charge somewhere between the $300 to $500 on general. On average, sorry. And by doing that, I can spend the dedicated time, but I don't even go to the job without taking that payment, which it took me a fair bit of time to overcome that sort of hurdle of charge for an estimate. That makes no sense. You can't. How do you charge it? But so far, I haven't actually had anyone decline it.
Yeah,
they're all very happy to pay it.
It's surprising, hey?
Yeah, it's very surprising because you all of a sudden get $500, say, or $400 that comes into your bank before you've even gone to a job site, and you've told them what you're going to get from it and why I'm better than the other guy, and you get the test run. So you turn up and they're excited about paying that money because they know they're going to get that detailed fixed price to keep on moving along. And then from there, I provide them their estimate, and it's a fixed price detailed estimate or quote, fixed price quote that has everything they should need without changes. So it makes such a big difference. It really does.
So I'm curious then. So tell us, I think we first spoke maybe 6 months ago now, maybe a little bit longer. What did your weekly routine look like? How many hours were you working a week?
So it was a split average, but I'd get up early around the 5-ish, generally 5:30. I'd get up every morning. I'd work till your 8 or 9. Then I'd have a quick break, and then from that you'd work right through to the day. I wouldn't take the kids to school or anything. Maybe one day a week if I was lucky. And some of that was not even office work. Quite often it was a little bit in the office and a lot going to sites and just trying to micromanage all of the sites. And that's not a good thing. I've come to learn that micromanaging, when you've got 8 sites on the go, it gets really difficult. And for me, it was always a challenge because I'd stop what I'm doing in the office. That's probably the most important part. And I'd be like, okay, I don't know what to do now. So all of a sudden I'd just leave, and I would go to a site and then put my nose in and get everyone upset about me telling them or barking orders that weren't necessary. So doing that was a big change. So since we've changed doing that by learning and having my CEO schedule and really utilizing the time throughout the day, it changed just the whole approach to what we were doing. You could see the guys had a bit more of a clearer idea of what was next, what was upcoming. And then having Thompson being in charge of the scheduling, it just changes things massively. It took that, but back to the time in the office, there was easily, you'd be doing 60-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks some days, and quite often those hours were a waste of time. They were pointless hours that I'm putting in because I wasn't doing anything I enjoyed. I just felt like I was micromanaging everybody and trying to give everyone their 2 cents of crap that they didn't need to hear from me when they were actually doing okay on the job site. So that was a big part to be able to make sure it was working fine.
And that was the 60 to 80 hours. That's just you. What about Candice? What sort of hours was she doing back then?
Yeah, so she's doing the same as well. So, but opposite shifts almost. So I'd be doing the morning to early evening, and then I needed stuff to be done. So she would be with the kids, and as anyone here that have got parents, the school days from when I was at school feel like they're shortest. So you don't get a lot of time without the children. So they would get home, and if I could take over from 5 or 6 o'clock, she would have to jump into the office. Plus, she might get 1 or 2 hours during the day, but they're never productive, and then she'd be stuck until later in the evening. So we'd work opposite schedules to try to make it work at a faster and better rate. But it also puts a lot of stress upon you as well at that stage. And the relationship.
Definitely. I mean, you don't really have time for each other at that stage, right?
And when you do, you talk about work, and that's not great, It's, let's go for dinner. Okay, we'll talk about work and we'll talk about problems. You're talking about the issues. You're not actually talking about anything else.
Yeah, you're not talking about yourselves and your kids and things like that.
Yeah.
And so what does your schedule look like now?
It's massively changed and still changing, which is especially in the last month for me, it's made a big difference. Because I still get up early and I'll jump in the office and I'll look at our updates and see what the guys have been doing on site without making too much commenting. And then I try to do a lot of my networking and quoting that I have to do in the morning, just to get it out of the way. And then but I pretty much drop the kids off now at school every day, or every other day, a lot in the morning. So if I'm in the office by 5:30, I'll work to about 10 till 7. Candice has got the kids ready. I walk inside. They jump in the truck. I take them to school. Candice comes to the office, and I'll come back, and we might get a little bit, but she's in her own lane with her stuff, which is completely different to what I'm trying to deal with. Yeah. And then off I go. I have a lot of meetings. I get to network and rub shoulders with the people that are going to help the business keep growing, because that's a huge part. That if you don't have someone that's feeding you the referrals, you're not getting that business without meeting and networking. So I sort of network up until the 2 o'clock. Got to be at school pickup for 2 o'clock. So I pick the kids up and then bring them home. And depending on where Candice is on her day, either we could swap out then. A couple of days of the week, she'll do the evenings and take the kids to their sports. But I sort of take care of it. So my day just consists now of a little bit of overseeing throughout the morning and the day, and being told to stay off the job sites and don't put my nose in and get in between everybody and find more work and find more business, because that's, they can do all the work for us without me micromanaging them, but they can't do the work if I'm not actually meeting those people. So that's what my day now looks like. And, yes, my days drop down to maybe, it might be bold saying, but I could possibly do the 5 hours or less a day and be just as effective and efficient in that time than doing what I was doing previously, whether they were 10 or 12-hour days. So I've definitely created a lot more time and space, and it's just a lot of time. It's sort of Candice and I's roles have reversed, but I was actually chatting to Todd earlier today, and I said the same thing to him. I said, our roles have reversed. Like, she went through being a mum and being with the kids the whole time for the last sort of 6 years. And now we've sort of, she's ready to get back into the workforce. So she wants to get back in the office and work because that's what she loves being a part of and loves doing. And now I get to hang out with the kids and sort of see them grow and take them to sports. So it's
nice.
The roles have had quite a good reverse and change. And even with Candice, she's not stuck just working 9 till 5. It's, she still has a lot to do with the kids. So we've both managed to create more time and be more efficient with our time. And I'm sure it's only going to get better and hopefully work less, but bigger gains in the outcome,
Yeah. And so what do you think is now the impact of both of you having that time for each other and your kids as well?
Well, it's the memories that we can now build between us is huge. We get to do what we want sort of on our schedule. So if it means we do a lot of camping, especially up here in Canada, now the weather's starting to come, you want to go away. It gives us the opportunity to have the time together. And if we need to take that extra day because we want it, we can. And quite often we've tried to structure the weeks so Monday and Fridays aren't as busy because there's lots of school days off on Mondays and Fridays, we've come to learn as well. So the Mondays and Fridays definitely are not our busy days. So if something has to change or a kid has to be off or there's a Pro D day, we get those days on them. So it allows us to have more family time, as well as taking the kids to sports. We're both very active, or I was very active, I should say. And the kids love it. So we're busy, through Taekwondo and soccer and rugby and everything throughout the week. It's just busy.
Nice. And so when you and Candice actually get time to talk, are you still talking about the business, or is that not as necessary anymore?
It's not as necessary. You're always there's such a big draw, I think, when you've got a husband and a wife working in the same business, which is yours. So you still always do, but we try to make a very conscious effort of avoiding it, and especially when we're together, avoid talking the negativity or the negative problems,
Yeah.
talk about your wins and the good things that are happening rather than, this person or that client. And, we're losing here or we had a problem on this. We try to keep that sort of out the gate and not bring it into if we're out for dinner. You just don't want to have that involved in where we're going because it just turns that nice family you time to work. And, we've worked hard to try to pull that away from the relationship. So that's not part. So, we moved our office outside. So we've got a home office, but it was inside. So now we've got it outside so we can stay separate. So if we can keep work in the office and home for being home, it makes, it's working really well anyways by having that. So when you're in the office, it means you're there for work. You're not inside working. So.
Well, it's really interesting. Michelle and I used to work out of one room, right? That was the office. And I got booted. And like the same thing as you, I got told, no, you just go away, you do your stuff separately. And man, it was so much better for our marriage. Like just separating work time and then we come together and have dinner as a married couple. It was so much better. And I'm sure because being a husband and wife owner of a construction business, obviously that is basically an extension of your family, right? Like you and Candice probably see that the business and your staff, your clients are pretty much part of your family. So it probably does take on a lot of your conversations when you guys are at home. But what does the outlook look like for you guys now compared to, let's say, 6 months ago in terms of your goals, both as a couple and for the business in relation to that?
Are you sort of more referring to like where we're trying to get to now? Like what's our pathway for
us? Do you feel that you've got a bit more clarity on what you can and want to achieve with the business over the next 5 years, let's say, compared to?
Yeah, so we've definitely created a bit of a pathway. A lot of it's still me as a visionary is more sort of where I see it going, more so than Candice. But we've definitely created a roadmap of the size, the dollar values, where we're trying to get to, how we might get there, and just what's the most important thing to us. And it is looking after clients. It is looking after the family and being able to be there for the kids and be able to give the kids the love and the care that we really want to be able to give them ultimately too. And if the business is set up in a way that we can actually do that, which is where it is, and we make that a very important part of where it has to, then it just works for us. So we do have the next few years is definitely sort of half mapped out with changes that are going to happen because they change sort of very often as the business changes, but we've definitely got our vision down packed on where we're trying to head.
That's good. And you're kind of working towards a common goal instead of having friction or whatever as well.
Yeah, well, and having it as together as a similar goal of, we don't know what our end goal is. That's something we haven't figured out. I don't know that I want to know what that is yet. I'm not ready to stop. I feel like we've just started with where it's going, even though we've been in business for a few years now. But now that Candice has come on, it's almost like it's sort of restarted because I've got the help that I've needed in the office and from Candice to really push to that next level. So it's interesting to see where you're going to go. But like I say, the end goal, we don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be passing it down to the kids or selling it or having a division here and a division in the interior and opening maybe a division back in New Zealand, back in the homeland? There's so many options, but that's a big part is if the business can allow us to do it, then we can do it if we set the business up to do it. And that's that is a main focus, to give us the freedom and the financial freedom eventually to be able to do that.
Yeah. And it's awesome, like having the opportunities that are, you've got multiple choices to kind of go into instead of being stuck into doing those 60 to 80-hour weeks and not actually having anything to kind of look forward to. Whereas now your problem is the other way, where you're like, man, I could do all these different things. I now have to figure out what do I actually want, which is really cool. But it sounds like Candice and the rest of the team might be giving you that gold watch and sending you on your way, putting you into retirement a bit earlier.
Yeah, I think they'd want me out, but that won't happen. I'll find another way to sort of snake back in and whether it's, I've got big plans and big thoughts of where I'd love to go. And as you've heard how my mind works, it's 100 miles an hour, different days of the week and different times of the day. And, I want this to be up and running, and I don't just want one business. I want to be able to own a few businesses, and I've never had business experience. So the knowledge that I've gained and gaining is just so helpful towards getting to that end goal. And, if I can own a few different companies, I think it just gives me that potential of the freedom and hopefully the less stress. I know it's going to come with more stress, but that freedom of being able to do what we want.
Yeah. And that's such a classic visionary thing. Hey, like you want to, once you've got this thing working, you're like, all right, what's next? It's not, most people that I speak to anyway, I'm not, just because I've got spare time doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and watch TV. I'm just going to do something else. It's not.
Yeah. And that's it. I don't, Candace will tell you that. I don't relax. My relaxing is doing something. I don't sit still.
Yeah.
If I'm around home, like I don't sit down and watch TV and watch a bunch of TV shows. I'd rather be outside and digging the garden or mucking around on the house or just working, but at my own pace. That doesn't have pressure. I like to stay active. It's, you go to the beach, and I'm over the beach. If you're ever at the beach, like when you go back home, I don't sit on the beach for a couple of hours. It's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
I've seen the water, I've seen the sand, what's next? And I'm very similar in business as well, I feel.
Yeah. Well, the good thing there is in business, having the freedom of that choice. Like, okay, I'm bored of this, I'm going to do something else, instead of, man, I'm stuck doing this. I want to get out of it, I just can't. So I'm glad that you're at a point now where you're making that transition and you've started to look into other directions and look at that as well and look for other businesses. And so when we talk about business, what is something that you believe to be true about business that some other people might think is unconventional?
You can do it. I feel I'm a prime example. I'm not the smartest or the sharpest tool in the shed, and you can do it if you've got that drive that you want to succeed or you want to do something. You definitely can. If you back yourself, if you're someone that doesn't want to back themselves, then I would say don't give it a shot necessarily. It might not be too good, but if you back yourself and you're on the fence of should I or should I not, don't wait. Just take it and grab the bull by the horns and go for a ride. What's the worst you do? You go back working for someone. But I think you can definitely do it. It's, if you back yourself and you want it, and if you've got that fire in you to be able to be your own boss, and that's a big part for me is I do what I want. I don't have to report to somebody. I've set the business up that it's my business and my lifestyle, not the other way around there. I have to be here at a certain time. So if that's something you're looking for in your life, then you really should just give it a shot, because there's plenty of work out there. And especially in this market, like if it fails, you can always go and get another job, but you'll always kick yourself, I think, if you don't give it an attempt. Even if you've got no knowledge, you learn along the way. And yes, there's mistakes that are involved in that. And yes, I've had a lot of them, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come. But.
Yeah. Well, that's quite inspirational. And, if there's other people listening here that are looking at taking the plunge and they're probably afraid of the failures or the worst case scenarios, can you give us a couple of examples of where you've had failures,
Yeah, well, the failures, that's a difficult one, because as much as I've never had any hugely bad failures. Little failures, if you trust it and you've got good ethics. I think for me, I care about my clients. I don't give a tail-light warranty. I want to be here for the long haul, and I want to establish a business. So the failures that I've run into anyway are generally more along the lines of mispriced a job, and that hurts. And yes, sometimes you can put that back on a client, but those are my biggest failures that I have, is underestimating or creating a problem or having a mistake and having to pay for it, because I don't feel that clients should ever have to pay for your mistake if you've underpriced it or you built something wrong. They've paid for your service. There's a lot of people that hide that under the rug and try to charge it. So for me, I'd rather take those failures on the chin, and maybe I care too much about people, but that's just who I am. I'd rather them know that they've got what they're expecting and the quality and communication that they're going to have. And then the other failures are just the basics, I think, that come to not knowing what business is, not understanding your bank accounts or your books and all those little bits and pieces, which are scary. And I can tell you, I didn't know anything about them when I went out on my own. You sort of learn. And to be honest, it's something that I hire an accountant for, to try to take that stress off me. And he tells me when it's right or wrong or good or bad. And now we're at a stage where Candace does that as well. So I don't need to worry about those numbers. So you can do it. And that's the scary part of failure, I think, is not having the money or the income, or knowing, in construction, there's massive swings. One day you've got $2,000 in the bank, and the next you might have $120,000 check coming in. So it's not just a easy road, but those are the biggest failures that I've sort of come across. I don't have any specifics.
You learned about the finances as you went along. So if I could ask you about the estimates, then you mentioned those, like you underestimated them, and then you've had to pay for it. So what have you learned from those failures, and how do you now avoid those same mistakes?
Yeah, we doing a pre-construction has been a massive help on preventing that. We never used to do that pre-con, so now actually getting paid to spend time on that estimate. You're not rushing through a quote as quickly as you possibly can to win a job. So we've sort of built sort of an estimating template. We actually spend time looking at it and going over it and making sure everything makes sense. Yes, I'm sure there's still the odd job here or there that we lose, but we're not losing by as much as you ever were. So by doing that, we spend the dedicated time. Like if you're in the bathroom and I spend 8 hours, or I'll spend, say, 3 hours, 2 hours on just making sure I've got it right. And they're all pretty simple, but I've just sort of fine-tooth combed it. Then it goes to Candace, and she can work the specs and selections. That we're spending dedicated time through that pre-construction agreement to make sure that that price is going to cover our services, because there's no point being in business if it costs you to, you don't want to be losing money every job. Every now and then, I guess it can be okay, but it's not great. It's not great as a business owner when you get that negative feel of you failed on that job site, but you've still got to put the smiley face on for a client. So doing the pre-con and spending dedicated time throughout the team is a massive help on preventing those hiccups along the way. And we catch them, when you've got more than one person, you really catch mistakes. And Cam's be like, oh, does this make sense? You've only got 2 hours for removing a full bathroom. Well, no, that's not even close. So everyone on the team start picking up on what it should be and how to do it. So
that's really interesting. So charging for pre-construction and estimates in particular, not just design, you're actually charging for estimates. That's helped you avoid those failures because you're not trying to rush out and do the estimates for free and get more and more out. But it's also helped on the flip side that the clients are being managed a lot better, and your team knows what they're delivering as well. So you're not just losing money on the estimate anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And you're working with the client. So before you charge, clients are like, well, when's my estimate back? How quickly do I get my quote? When's it going to be back? And you'd be like, oh, give me 10 days.
Yeah.
You look at it on the 9th day.
Yeah.
And then you rush through, where now you set it up. You say in a few days, you'll get the conversation or an email from Candace, and then the specs and selections start. So you've instantly created the back and forth with a client, which massively, one, it buys you more time. You make sure you're getting everything, and changes, so you're not quoting on the wrong products. And then if the product changes, that the hours have to change for it. So it really works massively on that it buys you more time, and then you don't start the job like previously. You look at a job on a Monday, you say you'll have them a quote by the Friday. Well, that didn't happen, and then your weekend comes, and you look at it on Monday and say, sorry about that, I got caught out, I'll have it to you by Tuesday. So you lied yourself into a week of not doing anything. and then you tell them you're going to start in 2 weeks, but you're behind the 8 ball before you started, because you can't get anything prepped. You can't do it. We're now spending that time. If you need that time, you can tell them, but you're having that contact. And generally, if they've paid you for the pre-con, I think that they're committed to something, so they're not shopping around the other 10 contractors trying to do it. They've invested a couple of dollars. It's not a large amount, but it's enough that they're not going to go to everyone. And then we provide them with the contract and what we've done. So you get to fine tune all your specs, selections, and hours, and understand the job, and then the team know their job when we do a handoff meeting. So
and they're paying you to do a service. You're not ripping them off or whatever. You're actually now doing meaningful work because someone's paying you for it instead of burning that week or whatever. So let me ask you, before you started charging, out of 10 estimates that you did free, how many were you actually winning?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting story too. So it depends how far back you go, because if I went back a few years, I was winning 10 out of 10. But I was also the cheapest guy because I felt bad that I couldn't charge enough money.
Yeah.
Then once you lift your rates and you feel a bit more confident and you start learning, out of 10, you start losing a couple, and you're okay with that because you're spending a bit more time, even though you're not getting paid for it. You're spending a bit more time than throwing a number and just doing it. So that drops down. That probably at the worst, it was probably about 50-50. You get 50% of them, and the other 50% you'd never hear back from, but you've spent a lot of time on it.
And out of the 50 that you've won, you were saying that you've missed stuff as well on the estimate.
Yeah, massive amounts. Yeah. Huge amounts, because you're still trying to do a rush, because you're just trying to get that quote out to win the job. You're not spending the time on providing a service that, if they don't want to use me, they don't have to, but we've provided the service for what it is. So if they want to take it, and I tell them that if you want to take it because you don't like working with us, that's fine. Take it, and here's your specs and selections list. So you can take that to get quoted so they can do it. And they feel a lot more comfortable working with you towards that, because they're getting an honest breakdown of what they're doing, and you've worked with them. And so far, we've done, every time they ring me for a job, I tell them how we work and give them a ballpark over the phone. And if they want any more, I follow up with an email. All of a sudden, you get a deposit. We take credit card. You suddenly get the deposit of $300 or $600 or whatever I've told them it is, depending on the size of the job. And then you're away. They know what they're going to get, and you're half in bed with them there, and they want to have that communication and the detailed breakdowns of everything.
So what would you say now, out of 10 estimates that you're now getting paid for? You're getting paid for all 10, but out of those 10, how many are converting to jobs?
So far, I'm at 100%.
100%. So you went from 50 to 100%. And then out of that 100%, are you still getting bits and pieces that are being missed? Are you still making losses because the estimate's been rushed?
Not anywhere near as much. Like I say, it is a fairly new thing. So some of the jobs we're through them all now, but at the moment we're not really missing the basics, because they've all been caught either in the pre-construction from Candice doing it, and if she's missed it, we do our handoff meeting. And when you do the handoff meeting, you've got the other guys in your team, and they're like, well, what does it even look like? Why is there no photo? Well, how does this look? And then you're like, well, okay, before we do it, let's make an adjustment to the quote. And, that could go up and down subject to it, but at least the client isn't expecting a change once we've started. And we don't start the day of sending them a quote. We make sure we create that break, because as soon as you don't put a break in it, and previously you try to roll straight into it just to get your foot in the door to start the job, where now you have the break, you make sure it's done, they're happy, and then we have our handoff meeting with the team. They know what's going to happen, and you're prepared for the job site. So you're not missing all these little mistakes here and there. You're catching it. So if I've missed it, Candice will catch it, and then when she would miss it, or the numbers don't sound right, we do the handoff meeting and say, well, you've got X amount of hours for this and this and this. They say, well, that's physically impossible. It's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. There's 0 hours for demo, or there's only 2 hours instead of 200 hours for framing. Well, those are big mistakes, which, people catch it, and I feel I become blind to it. You start looking at numbers, and
you're not doing the job.
So once it goes through 2 to 4 sets of eyes, you catch it. So it makes it a lot easier to get the quoting and not miss little things, or how you think something should be done is going to be done differently. So having a team that we trust is helpful.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, so it's obviously pre-construction, you've got now 100% conversion rate. You've weeded out the people that don't they probably wouldn't have been good clients to begin with anyway. But you're getting, from day one, you're being paid for estimates and everything. So you're not doing any sort of free work at all. And you've now got a rigorous handoff process so that nothing is being missed. So talk to me about the ripple effects on your construction team for jobs that are, the pre-construction is going well and the jobs that are being handed off properly according to your process. What does it now look like on the construction side?
So now on the construction side, they just know what they're going into. They've been prepped on the client, what they love and hate, because we've already built that relationship through whatever, whether it's days, weeks that we've been going back and forth. You get to know how they are. You know their responses.
Yeah.
And then during the handoff meeting, we get to review the job, the drawings. You know what they're expecting. You know what they want if you're saving or keeping. They're just going in with a detailed, this is what we are going to be doing, A to Z. We know it all.
Yeah.
There's no questions. If you've got a question, that can be asked in the handoff and we get you that answer. And then being able to give the guys on our software all the information that they need. There's just no questions that are required. And if they are, like I said at the start of the chat, it's almost like a reverse funnel, because it comes to me last before coming to me first now. So, it works its way back through the quote as such from the handoff in reverse. So it comes from me and then goes over to the office, and then it goes through the project management, then it goes out to the field, and then when there's a problem, well, it comes back to the manager on site, then the project manager, then back to Candace for the questions, and then to me if I need it. So it's great.
Can you give us an example of what that question may be that ends up at you?
Yeah, so a prime example was one that just happened the other day was we did a handoff last week. It was a very simple thing, but I thought I had all the drawings. They were ready to go. This specific set was actually a homeowner set of drawings, so they're lacking a lot of information generally if you go off a homeowner set of drawings, but we went for it. And then one of my managers picked up, the site managers was like, well, what kind of shower base is going in? Well, it's tile. Well, where's the drain? Is it a linear drain? Where's the water? Where's this? Where's that? And it's like, well, we've missed a pretty key part here because no one's got any idea. Yeah. So all of a sudden, that was during the handoff meeting. So that goes back to us to chat. Then I've got to go back to the quoting, and then I've got to go back to the photos to figure out those problems. And then when you get into the field for an issue like that, we haven't had anything too heavily that's come back, apart from we had a mistake that happened, but that was just user error without following the correct instructions and putting the wrong size fascia boards on. But when you come back, you can figure out who's actually at fault, and was it done from the boots on the ground, or was it done from the quoting, and it wasn't the office. So you can sort of work your way back to find where the problems go. And it comes down to if someone just didn't read something, or they took it off and they put it on. So you can hold your team accountable, and they can be accountable because they know what it is. So we haven't got a detailed bad thing yet. Hopefully we don't, but that's sort of what we're noticing anyway, and what we see from it all.
Yeah, because then, like you said, because there's so many layers that it's going through. Like, that's a pretty good example with the bathroom, the shower items being picked up. So what happened there? Did you then amend your estimate going in, or is that something you had to swallow?
Yeah, well, so we lucked out on this one, to be honest with you, because we rushed in for the handoff meeting, and we were starting at the 3 days after the weekend. So we basically had the handoff on the Thursday and we were starting on the Tuesday. Yeah. And that was just we weren't going to do it. And then we sort of hummed and we hard, and we left at the 11th hour of what we shouldn't do. And that's part of the process of creating it. So I was ready to swallow the cost of doing it differently. But when we got there, it was completely fine, and it didn't make too much difference on where it was going to go. And then, I met the team for the walkthrough, and it answered itself, luckily. So there wasn't too much cost. We were lucky that we're doing the bathroom straight below it. That is already demoed from the clients. So it didn't affect us, but it very easily could have by ordering the wrong shower bases or having the quote from the plumber. He didn't know he was relocating a shower base because I never told him that. I just said, here's the drawings. Well, it's actually not as the old drawings. We're changing it around. So we lucked out on that one. But I was prepared to swallow the cost on whatever the shower base may have been, or what the plumbing changes would have been. it very easily if you don't send the before plans and then the as-built plans and then the new plans, well, they're pricing on new thinking it's in the same place. So you catch those little things, and we lucked out on this one, and it wouldn't have been a crazy problem, but it just shows how quickly it can change if you're not prepared for it.
Instead of missing something else bigger out down the track as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to construction now, because I know when we first spoke, you had to not, as you said, you were going to site and micromanaging and stuff like that, but you said you were getting a lot of calls from your construction team. Like you were having to be reactive because people were calling you, asking you questions.
Yeah, 20 questions a day or more probably. Like they just didn't want to make a decision.
Yeah. And what does that look like now?
They don't really call me. They call Thompson. But no, it's all changed because they've got clarity on what has to happen. Yeah, you're still going to get the odd phone calls here or there. And especially in renovations, there are hiccups and there are changes that happen on the fly that we have to deal with. But now we have that availability, or we have just that skill set that if you know it, and we do a daily planner as well. By 2 p.m, the guys have to let Thompson know any issues on the site, which is a big key we haven't sort of discussed. But for them to give him the information of a problem that's happened at 2 o'clock means by 5 o'clock he can have that ready and fixed.
Yeah.
So come the next morning, there's no issues. And we never used to do that, but that has become huge. And that also, sort of spreads out into the scheduling, because if you've got a big delay, suddenly at 2 o'clock, you're trying to reschedule guys for a new site opposed to 8 a.m. in the morning when they're like, where are you going? Oh, you didn't tell me that yesterday. So that's a big help there that helps eliminate questions by having the site leads send in the daily planner. And we've actually got it as well on our job logs, and we use Builder-Trend, and they fill it all out in the job log. So I can see it, and Thompson and Candice and whoever needs to see it can actually see the questions and problems that have arose during the day if there are any.
Yeah, nice. And change orders. Do you get many change orders through construction now?
So far we haven't. Like I say, we're into about our 8th or 9th sort of attempt at it. And we haven't had any change orders. We've just had one today that popped up, but it's not a change order. It's just the tile is now out of stock. So we haven't started the job.
Yeah.
So we get to go back to the drawing board, and I'm not even worried about it. Previously,
how good's that? How good is that? Hey, like catching it out before you even start on site. Yeah.
Yeah. So great. We can't even get it. So before we even got to site, we've got a couple of weeks before we start the job. So that really helps, just having that all prepared and catching things early.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found that the same thing, like pre-construction, if done correctly, avoids change orders, which allows your construction to just go so much smoother, and you're not stopping and starting and changing things halfway through. So when you had your pre-construction process designed, you were able to charge for estimates because you've got a process in place, have people in there that you can pay for their time because the client's paying for it. And that's resulted in your construction delivery going a lot smoother as well. And I'm assuming more profitable as well, right?
Yeah, well, and currently we haven't run all of the numbers on where we're at. That's something that we'll be doing here pretty soon. I'm not going to run it on a week-to-week basis. So we're going to sort of check it on the quarter. So once we come up to that, I can confidently say that we are definitely being more profitable.
Yeah.
I can see dollars in the bank account differently. I can see that there's less issues or stress that I'm feeling because things are organized. And it just makes it so much easier. So I'm excited to say that I think we'll be profitable, and you can sort of feel it coming down the pipeline just because things are a lot more organized. So I don't know if we are or not, but I'm pretty confident to say it's going to be a profitable quarter compared to what we've sort of seen previously.
Well, considering you were doing estimates for free, considering you were losing money on jobs and stuff, I'd probably assume that.
Yeah.
Unless
exactly. You'd hope. If not, we're going the wrong way and it's all a waste of time. But like I say, I don't think we are. You can see it. You can hear Candice. She's buzzing about it. She goes, I can just see it. It's all starting to happen, and we're not close to the end either. Like,
Yeah.
we're only starting to build the tower of what we want it to be like, and
Yeah.
that's just going to keep growing. But you can see it, and creating the process and the documents of how the business is working, that changes multiple times, probably per month or year anyway.
Yeah.
And adding and taking things out as we change. But yeah, you can see things are in the works for a much more successful company that we're running.
That's good. And yeah, like you said, you want to build a tower, but it's important to get the foundations laid right. If they're shonky, your tower's not really going to go that tall or last that well.
And it just limits you, right? We could stay at a $600,000 business if I didn't want to change a few years back, or we could have stayed where we were at $1 million. But I want to see that tower grow and the growth and what it can build for us. So you've got to, like you say, set those foundations and start at the bottom and get that part fully organized before you try to go up, because you hear the horror stories of companies that grow too fast and they fall pretty quick, but they go up and down fast. And if you set a good foundation to grow and stabilize the business growth off, then I feel like it's only going to make your job easier because you've already put everything in place.
Yep. And I want to ask you, so 6 months ago you were working with another coach as well at the time, someone different to us. So you've since done all the work in the Systematize construction business program, and you've seen results, or you're starting to see the results as well. So how is life different now for you personally compared to that point 6 months?
Yeah, well, the business is just flowing better on the business standpoint. On the personal thing I've just got a lot more time and able to do things differently. The stress levels aren't there. You still get the odd little tremor come in and sort of gives you a little spike just to let you know that you can't go too far away. But it's just giving you the freedom to be able to hang out with the kids or do a few more things that I want to be able to do by, and a lot of it, the SYBC course established it, by giving us the input and giving us the worksheets and actually making us work through it, or myself. Like, Candice didn't do a lot of it. So she did it quickly and listened to it, but I actually did the course. And it just sets you up to have a much broader vision of what's right or what's wrong. And for me, it was, you should have this. What do you mean you don't have that? Oh, okay, well, let me go and find that. And it's like, Candice, I need this. And then suddenly you've got it. And it's like, well, I've never seen this before in my life. So now you get to learn about it. So it's helped grow my knowledge on areas that I've never done. And I think I even said to you, I'm not a technology sort of a person. I 2 years ago, I couldn't even use a computer, and I kid you not, like, it was terrible. Like, even our first chat that we had, I told you to be wary. It's not pretty. I may not be able to do a lot of things, but by part of that would have been from the course and being online and having to be able to implement things. I don't use paper anymore. We don't use paper for when I go to my job site for quoting. We don't use paper for anything, but it's just freed up all of that and allowed me to learn different parts of the business and life that if I was still swinging a hammer, I still wouldn't be using a computer.
Yeah. And that's probably made, like, you're using Buildertrend now, and you said you're not doing anything on paper anymore. You guys are pretty heavily reliant on technology to automate all of your stuff.
Everything is, yeah.
That's probably made a significant change in your day-to-day routine compared to when you couldn't rely on that stuff because you couldn't.
Well, you just lose so much more when it's all paper, right? That's what I've come to learn is when I'm in my notepad or in the book and you lose the page, or paper vanishes. It just disappears. I don't even know where it can go. It's like socks in a dryer; they just vanish. It's like someone just takes it and they're gone for good. But running it through Buildertrend, everything's there. Our communication with the whole team gets to stay there. So if someone was sick or left or whatever that might look like, we've got that all there, and it's not stuck in one person's head. It's in everyone's head to see. So the people that need to know about it, and that's what the technology does. And I can't even imagine 3 years ago when we didn't use technology in the company for how far we've come with it. It's just crazy. I couldn't think of going back. I look at pen and paper, I'm like, man, this is bad. Like, you see some competitors or some people that still do it, and it's like, how? Like, you have to you just have to do it,
Yeah. I think a lot of it's like a builder's thing. Hey, like people just refusing to acknowledge that technology can help you. You want to try and just stay on the tool sort of thing. And it's been quite impressive for me to watch you actually be able to just participate in this program. Because I do remember that first phone call, like it was a struggle getting your registration done and stuff like that. But, all of our stuff's online. And at the beginning, you'd said, hey, I don't know how to do any of this. It's probably going to be Candace that does all of this. I'll just get on the calls or whatever. But turns out you actually did do all the work. And
I did do it all. I learned how to use Google Drive. I didn't even know that was a thing. Even before the course, I didn't know what it was, but the whole course is based on that. And, I share that with my team and tell my team, like, look at it. This is where it is. If you've got questions and answers, get on to Google Drive and give me the input there.
Yeah.
You don't need to drive an hour and a half to tell me something, or give me a piece of paper. Put it on there, make whatever it needs to be. Just let me know it's on there, and we can oversee it. So being able to use it just makes such a big difference in how a business runs. Like when I think back, I don't know how, I'm 35, but I feel like I'm probably a 70-year-old builder.
I was going to say,
try to stay in those. I don't like change. I love change, but I don't like change because it puts you outside of what your boundaries, I like to be good at what I can do. And when as good as you can be on pen and paper, there's no way that pen and paper can beat technology. It just doesn't.
And so if there's other guys out there that are pretty resistant to technology that want to do this program, but if that's what's scaring them out of doing it because it's all online, did you find it easy to pick up at the beginning?
Yeah, it's very, very easy. And I'd say, if you're really worried about that, it's the hardest thing is learning how to save something. And that's not hard. It's very easy. And I'm sure, like if you're having Monish as your coach, you just say, show me how to do it, and you screen share it, and you can do it so quickly. It's the system itself is simple. And just to throw a wrench into when we did the system, we had the changes from the old system to the new system. So I learned the whole old system first, and then you're like, actually, we're using this new platform. And so for me, I was like, oh, well, shit, here we go. This is going to be a challenge. And it wasn't. It's great and it's easy, and you can find everything you need to. And having there's nothing difficult about the way it's set up.
Yeah. And I think you changed your internal system from over to Buildertrend as well. So you went through, I feel like you're a professional computer coder now by the end.
Exactly. I'd say I'm far from that. But and that was it. That's what was crazy with us is growing the business, dealing with the family, and we were on Co-Construct and then started the SYBC coach and then coaching. And then that went from, the first platform to the second platform, and right in the middle of it, we're trying to create all these new processes and documents and upload them to show you guys so you can say if they're good, bad, or other. And then all of a sudden we had to move over to Buildertrend. So yes, they're similar, but they're not similar at all. We're learning big differences. So far it's for the better. I am enjoying it. There's some things that we're missing, but there was a lot of computer things that we had to do, and I did a lot of it myself. It's figuring it out. Candace gives you a bit of guidance. She's a computer whiz, so that definitely helps. But for the whole course and the changing over and learning, it's a very simple way to do it, and you can do it. It's not hard. It's if you have a very basic computer, you'll be able to get through it. Just don't have too much stuff.
Well, I want to say at this point, we didn't force you or ask you even to change from Co-Construct to Buildertrend. Right? It's just something that you guys figured out. One's better than the other, basically.
Yeah, we had the whole conversation with how those two platforms worked, and they are now owned by the same company. So we made the decision which was best for our company, and I didn't want to get stuck, just with Co-Construct when they told us that they're not going to do any new updates. Well, I've just got off paper, and if I didn't change when I did it, I'd be stuck with the same old updates. Great. was happy with it, but by changing, it's just showing us such a different amount of things that we can do and track. And, there's pros and cons to them, but the pros heavily are outweighing the cons, and it's making our life easier as a whole for just the running of jobs.
Yeah. And you were able to see that because you guys designed your internal processes first and then figured out what's the best tool to use with it. It wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all just integrates, and the way the business is going, the way we've set it up, it was a no-brainer for us to change it. We just had to. It's I know I questioned you a lot about it when we started and tried to figure it out, and it just makes life easier. And having it, whatever that platform may be, I know there's a lot out there, but it just keeping everything for a job together makes life easy. And then from the SYBC, you've got all that information that's there. So if you need something, they don't really, the SYBC and Buildertrend don't have anything to do with each other. Like, they don't interconnect or interlink. It's, build your process and systems to make your life on running the platform easier. And that's the thing. It just gives you these eye openers on, well, maybe we need this and this and this. And oh, look, Buildertrend just happens to have a lot of these things that you can utilize it to make your job easier and more efficient and more helpful for the guys in the field.
Yeah. A lot of people think of it the other way. And I think you may have originally, where they'll go and purchase a software and be like, oh, if I buy that, that's going to bring with it all the processes and stuff. It's going to magically solve all my problems.
Yeah, it definitely won't.
Yeah, it definitely won't.
It definitely won't. It won't fix any of those. The processes come from you, and even through the course, the SYBC course, it's not Todd's or Monish's or Leah's processes. You build your own process for how you want your company to be ran, and that's what's awesome. Is I'm not setting it up. This is how you did it. This is how you meant to do a business is ABC. It's, well, do it your way, and here's the tools to help you get your mind working, to create the process for how your business should be, or how you vision, or how you see your business wanting to work. Like, if you enjoy those 80-hour work days and you want to do it, or 80-hour work weeks, stay doing it. If that's what you love doing, I think you can, and you're going to create your process for that. But for me, that's the last thing I want. I want less work hours and be more efficient. And that's what it has helped us set up.
Well, let me ask you it this way then. You did the program, and let's say 3 months, you guys have created your processes, you've created all this sort of stuff. If you were to not do the program, how long do you think all this would have realistically taken?
Well, to put it one way, we grew massively with our previous coach, and I'm very grateful for where we got to, but I sort of capped out with not being given more input for how to get that growth. So I think I would have just sort of plateaued out. Yes, I may have got there. I would have said there's years involved to get to that, or different coaching, or you're paying for something. Going through the course, it's just set up in a way that you start in different areas, and it's built in a way that you focus on different things, and they sort of, you start on 1, you might jump to 3, but then you go back to 2, and then to 5, and then back to 1. So it links all of the processes and documents together, so you can have it where I don't know how long I wouldn't have even got all of them, and I guarantee it. I would have had to have paid a lot of money either to buy the process, or a company that's got it, or find a way that I'm paying for it no matter what. How are you going to do it? That's how do you find it? And with the course, at 8 weeks, we were done. I had it all, and now it's implementing it, and we're still implementing it from the course, and that's been finished for a bit now. And there's just so much to still go. And from the course, you can implement the same. You can do it on repeat for any phase of your business. And that's what's great. Is it's yes, the course that we did was based on nailing the handoff. But if you want to do it on sales, you can do the handoff or the sales. You just use the same information in that sector. And we will do that. I can't wait to do that. I'm already, because I'm being sort of kicked out of my own business by the wife.
In a good way. In a good way. That's a good result.
Yeah, in a good way. But being kicked out, like, I do the sales. Well, I want to, we have created, not I, it's the team, we created what she has to do for the pre-con. So now I want to do it for the sales. So I can be like, well, here, this is my lane and this is my work. And I don't have to worry about that. And then we'll jump in and we're going to do it through I hope to do it through every phase. And I do believe that I can probably have it done within another year from now, if not sooner. I think I can, that's a challenge that I want. And I do believe that I could get the business working without me, so I can do a trip to New Zealand, or I could open another division somewhere else in Canada up the road, or in New Zealand. Or, hey, if you were to move to New Zealand, I do believe that creating the processes that have been put in place and the systems, if we get it done right, I could run it from New Zealand and still have a company here in Canada.
That'd be cool.
It's just replacing those people in those positions. So I do think it's a definite, the processes is the key. And if I couldn't have done it without the course, and that's 100%. The course has let me build it, and the vision. You've still got lots of questions. I've still got lots of questions, but when you start thinking about them, or you get into a deep session, you can really figure out what's wrong. And there's a lot of information that you take, and there's a lot to take in throughout the course. So if you can figure out how to slowly go through it after the course, it's, now the first couple of weeks after the course, to be honest, I didn't do anything because I was like, holy crap. There was so much stuff and I didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
And then you start going in, and then, I've had Candace doing things, but just because I'm saying I'm not doing it, I had Thompson doing things, I've had Candace doing things, I had the other guys in the team doing things. It's just me, I was drained from that 8 weeks. I wasn't drained, it's just I don't know where to go next to when you don't have the weekly call. So it really helps create structure in where you're trying to get to, and just shows you can slow down when you need to and jump back in and speed up because you've already got it established.
Yeah. And you having, like, you did do a lot during the program. It wasn't that you just learnt and now you're waiting to do it. So you'd got it to the point where things were set up so that you could delegate it to Candace and Thompson and everyone else, and take that step back and go, all right, I can have a breather for a month or so. And
because you are setting it up as you go. If you don't do it, you ain't going to get it set up. So you have to do it in your week to week and make sure it's done. So it's something you don't want to miss, that weekly coaching call, and everyone's saying, oh yeah, we've done this, and then you're like, oh, I missed it because I was not paying attention. Or like that happened to me for 1 week, and then you want to play catch up real fast because you don't want to miss out. You
don't want to come to the group call and say you didn't do anything.
No, you miss out on a lot of that. And, it's the time and the effort you put into it is what you get out of it. And like you said there, is you do it, you create the processes, even though you don't realize you're creating the processes. Well, for me, I didn't realize how much we probably created from doing it the way that it's set up and the way that it is done, until you step back and you actually realize, oh, hang on, look at this. This has changed. That's changed. Their mindset's different here. Well, the team created this, and there's all these different things. And that's when I sort of got to step back a little bit and realized, and, you look now, and now I've got my own lane that I'm to stay in, and Candace has her lane, and Thompson's got his lane, and the managers have their lanes. And it just goes down that people have a lot more clarity on where to go. And you don't do that. I didn't do a lot of that after. It was all done during the course, and you don't realize it because you're doing so many different bits and pieces. And the way it is, right? It's all, like I said, you do phase 1, then 3, then 2, then 5, then back to 1. And so it's sort of, you get to pick up and leave off at different parts. Yeah.
And how long did you spend on the course each week, do you think, yourself?
So I probably spent double what most people do. I believe I listened to every video multiple times. Because I wanted to get every single penny of help and knowledge and not miss anything. And if I was dedicating my time to learning it, I wanted to make sure I could do it right. Some weeks they were quick. or the break weeks, you don't, but you're on average. I was probably doing about 6 hours, and then a lot of just re-listening and learning and checking and overviewing and on repeat. But you could do it in a lot less than that. I feel it depends on how much you want to dedicate yourself to it. I think how deep do you want to get into every question, and that could be the good or the bad. It's it's hard sometimes to get deep, but if you're going to go deep and you're trying to find your whys, well, you could put how deep do you want that to go. So there's a lot of the videos to learn and to follow the directions, but if you're not talking about the video watching, because those aren't massively long generally, but you're a few. You'd probably be 3 or 4 hours easily a week. And like I said, I wanted to spend more because I wanted to be able to utilize my 8 weeks. And if I had questions come group calls, I wanted to have my list of 100 questions that you would answer.
Yeah. And 6 hours across 6 hours a week across 8 weeks to get to the point where you're at, where you're like, if I hadn't done this program, it would have taken us years.
It's a no-brainer, really. It's huge. It's the knowledge that has been provided and the way it is you don't just stumble across that. Well, I don't think I was ever just going to stumble across it one day and have a light bulb say, "Oh, we need to have this," and just the basics. Having a daily planner for the team to relate, like. Yeah, we did job logs, but it didn't have a lot of detail to now with, like I said on Buildertree, there's a detailed job log that everyone must fill out, which creates, makes less work for everybody else if they do it correctly. So you just, there's lots of things you start realizing, and I keep saying, well, we need to go back over everything from the course.
Yeah.
But that's just something I need to do and then see what we're doing right or wrong. I don't need Candace or Thompson or any of the managers. It's just I want to make sure that we're not missing things because the company is now set up in a way that we want it to be with the guidance from you guys. And it's a great way for that to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. And your perspective's changing as the business is improving. So every time you go back and relook at the course information, you're probably going to come up with new ideas and what else you can change now as well.
Yeah, for sure. And that's going to happen. And then it's, I hope that, like I said, within a year, I set a goal to go back to New Zealand and do a stint in New Zealand. And I think Candace and I are still probably on slightly different pages on that. But if we can get it to that, if I can prove to her that it is doable, I think she's going to be all over it. And I think it is. And it's just, like you said, you go revisit it all. It's always going to be there for me. And if you get stuck, you get caught. I actually printed everything off as I told you, just so.
Gone back to paper, yeah.
I printed it off every single day. I had to print it off just in case. So if I was stuck with the kids, or I didn't, like I say, if I shut the computer, I don't want to have to start finding where I left off. I never even used any of that folder. That's how easy it is.
Nice.
Printed it all off, and I don't even know where that folder is because it's all wet. I didn't even use it. It's great. So it's just helping us succeed, and it puts everything in place so we can do what we want for our life, really.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. And, I'm looking forward to hearing about your progress a year from now as well, maybe from New Zealand, potentially hanging out there. And look, I won't keep you for much longer. If people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, so you can contact us through our website, or you could shoot me over an email. Our website is www.hickeyconstruction.ca, or my email is daniel@hickeyconstruction.ca, DANIEL, and then my last name is HICKEY. And if you want to reach out, feel free to shoot over an email, and we can arrange a time to chat depending on where we all are. And I'd love to chat to anyone that has questions, but I think it's well worth, if you're ever on the fence of jumping onto the course, it's huge and massively beneficial for what you can gain out of it. And I'm a big fan of it, and I think it's going to help succeed and set me up for success beyond whatever I ever thought was possible, I think. So I'm excited for what we've learned and what's going to come from it.
That's awesome. And I'm excited to see what your results are as well in the long term. It should be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, it will be good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time again. Really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Monish.
See ya.
Hey guys, it's Todd again. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes for more details and head over to constructionleadingedge.com for more resources. You'll find links to the podcast, free training videos, partners, lots of valuable resources over at constructionleadingedge.com. And if you want your business to run without you, so you can get out of day-to-day firefighting, be able to take a long weekend or even a proper 2-week vacation, or be able to sell your business one day, then there are 3 crucial systems that you absolutely need to have in place. Look, you can certainly figure all of this stuff out on your own through trial and error. You could spend months experimenting, try things on a project, try out systems, see if they work, meanwhile dealing with all the chaos and profit bleeds along the way. However, if you want to accelerate your results, and if you want to avoid months or even years, maybe even decades of learning curve and mistakes, one of the best things you can do is find a proven system and use it. Find a proven system. It's the same reason why you use QuickBooks or Sage or CoConstruct or Buildertrend or Procore instead of creating your own software. Look, you probably could do that. You could create your own software. You could hire developers, spend years and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars figuring it all out on your own, making costly mistakes, spending a lot of time. But why spend a lot of time and energy reinventing the wheel when you could just take advantage of the years of work and all the investments somebody else has already made? Look, the reason you don't build your own software is the same reason you don't own a concrete plant or you don't build your own trucks. You don't own a lumber mill. It's why you work with trade partners who are specialists at their trade instead of self-performing everything. You let somebody else invest all the time and capital to build it, and then you just get to use it when you need it, as needed, on demand. And that's why most successful professionals invest in coaching, whether they are NFL quarterbacks, Major League Baseball pitchers, CrossFit athletes, race car drivers, CEOs. Coaching brings you 3 things. Number 1, a proven system. Number 2, new ideas. And then number 3, accountability. You get access to a proven system that you can just plug into your business without spending months or years trying to figure out on your own. You get new ideas. A team of coaches who works with construction business owners from all over the world will share ideas and best practices that you simply may not have been exposed to. They'll help you also see things that are in your blind spot. And the nature of blind spot is you can't see it. And then let's face it, when you're the boss, when you're the owner, there's probably no one looking over your shoulder. And that's why you need accountability. Accountability to drive implementation. And then if you can do all of that within the community of a bunch of other construction business owners, that's a bonus. That's even better. So that's what an investment in coaching will do for you. Look, I've tried to figure this stuff out on my own. I've seen lots of people do it. And trying to figure this out by trial and error is crazy. It's expensive. It takes a lot of your time. And frankly, you just don't have to do it because there's a better way. Here's the good news. You can get the results you want without having to recreate the wheel and figure it all out. An investment in the right, it's very important, an investment in the right coaching program pays for itself in a month. Don't go it alone. So here's my advice, okay? Find the best coaching program out there that has a proven system and is a good fit for you. That's very important. Not all programs are equal. Not all programs are a good fit for you, but find one that has the proven system that's a good fit for you and then invest the time and money and energy it takes to work with them. And if you would like our help to help you put those crucial systems in place in your business, then let us know. If you want our help so that your business can run without you, so that you can take a vacation, so that you can get out of day-to-day firefighting mode, so you can set up a team and set up a business that will run without you. Here's the next step. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply. That's constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, and schedule a breakthrough session with our team to discuss our Systematize Your Construction Business program. That's constructionleadingedge.com/apply. And hey, if you enjoy this podcast, it would mean a lot to me if you could leave a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. My name is Todd Dawalt from constructionleadingedge.com. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time.